to Finding Your Piece of the Rock on ThinkTech Hawaii. I'm your host, Abe Lee. I have been a licensed real estate agent since 1973. I'm the owner of Century 21 iProperties Hawaii and work with over 100 wonderful agents in real estate sales. I started Abe Lee Seminars in 1980. I have taught over 10,000 students to get their real estate license and teach continuing education classes for licensees to renew their licenses every 2 years. Our show is dedicated to helping buyers and sellers understand the process involved in a real estate transaction. Our special guests will talk about legal issues, escrow, title, getting a loan, surveys, home inspections, condominium insurance, Bureau of Conveyance, contracts, wills and trusts, and much, much more. Our special guest today is Mike Imanaka, who is famous in the real estate industry because of his very background. Mike graduated from the University of Hawaii with a bachelor's in English, master's degree in public administration. He was a deputy registrar at the Hawaii Bureau of Conveyances in charge of operation oversight for land court and regular system division. Mike was the vice president for Old Republic Title and Escrow. He was president of Premier Title and Escrow, senior vice president for Title Guarantee, and business development officer for Premier Realty 2000. We'll be right back. Mike, thank you so much for being here today. I know you're busy.
It's very busy. And when you said famous, Mike Imanaka, I think you're talking about somebody else. But thank you for the opportunity. The great Abe Lee.
Thank you. Remember, I pay all my guest speakers to say the great Abe Lee or whatever, okay? But thank you, Mike. You've had such a varied background in different aspects of escrow and title and Bureau of Conveyances. So you're a perfect candidate to talk about what is the role of Bureau of Conveyance. But before we do that, Mike, tell us a little bit more about your personal background, your school, where you went, and your work experience.
Well, I grew up in Hawaii Kai, and I'm a proud product of public schools, Cocoa Head, New Valley, Kaiser. And then I was fortunate to go to University of Hawaii, where I majored in English, and then I got a master's in public administration. So, if anything, my value system is based upon a lot of education. In fact, I like going to school. I like meeting new people, learning new things. So, I guess part of my background is, public service and trying to give back to the community and government, and, whether it's within a public sector or private sector.
I've known Mike for decades. Even though he looks young, I knew him since he was a teenager. But Mike has been in a variety of different businesses and responsibilities, and he's also served on nonprofits like the Hawaii Homeownership Center, where he was a director. And that's how he got me interested in working with HHOC, as we say. So Mike, tell us about the role of the Bureau of Conveyance.
Well, the Bureau is the only recording office in the state of Hawaii. So in other places on the mainland, you have county-based bureaus or recording offices. In Hawaii, there's only one, and it's a statewide office that's on Punchbowl Street, 1151 Punchbowl. It's in the Kalani building, which is Diamond Head from the state capitol and Mauka from City Hall. So most people, you may drive by that office a lot, the Kalani building. And if you're ever interested at some point in time to visit the office, you can access the office through the parking lot and go upstairs to the first floor.
Great, thank you. Now, in the document recording system, there's two systems, which is kind of unusual. There's a regular and a land court. What's the difference between the two systems?
Well, prior to 1903, it was just a regular system-based recordings. And then in 1903, the Bureau established the land court or Torrance system. And the Torrance system was based upon Sir Robert Torrance, who invented the title recordation in Australia. So once that was set, that was able to register ships, they used that to apply it to land parcels. And it's not only in Hawaii, but it's on the mainland as well.
Okay. So Torrance came in the early 1900s and convinced the territorial government of Hawaii to use the system, right?
Yeah, 1903, yes.
So
So,
what's the difference between if you record a document in a regular system, what happens? And then maybe you can talk
well,
about what happens when you register the land in land court system.
yeah, so there's two very distinct recording offices. The regular system, which is abstract, and basically the abstract system is giving notice that a document is on public record. So basically, as long as it meets the recording requirements within the law or administrative rules, you can record it. And if you go to the Bureau website, you'll be able to find the requirements to record a document. So basically, you could pretty much record anything as long as it meets recording requirements. However, for the land court or Torrance, it's very restricted and regulated because each recording creates a TCT, a transfer certificate of title. And basically what that is, that's the history of that property and very specific, whereby assistant registrars are the ones who review it and certify those documents. So it's very, very complicated and much more involved than a regular system recording.
So let's say I want to go from regular system to land court because I heard Torrance's system. I said, wow, I want to switch over. What's the process?
Well, you'd have to file an application with the Bureau. And, again, the requirements would be on the site. And, there are benefits of land court. There's also benefits of not being in land court. So depending upon your legal advice, you can make that decision, which recordation office you want to be within.
Okay. So can documents be recorded in both systems? When does it get recorded in two systems?
So basically, those are called dual recordings or dual system recordings or double system.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what happens there is the property resides within the land court and the regular system jurisdiction. So there's simultaneous recordings where that document is brought into the Bureau. The Bureau reviews it within a land court section and then passes it on to the regular system to make sure both recordation systems, view it as correct.
Okay. So this transfer certificate of title that you call the TCT, what
TCT.
is that?
So it's a number specific to a certain parcel within land court. Within that document, you have a date of issuance, you have the name of registered owners, you have a land description of the property, the type of tenancy, and if there's a trust, what type of trust powers are applicable.
Okay, now you have to go to the courts to register the land court property, whereas regular system you don't?
So basically you have two distinct systems. You have the land court judiciary,
Mm-hmm.
and you have the land court within a Bureau of Conveyances. So you're not just going to court per se, you're going to the land court that's specifically aligned with the Bureau.
Okay. So it sounds like it's a little complicated.
It can be complicated, but fortunately, the current judge here, Judge Chang, wrote a really good article that was published within a Hawaii bar. And, read that article, you can get a good sense of, how the system works and some good tips.
Okay, great. So let's go back in history. When King Kamehameha did the Great Mahele, and he said the poor Kanakas can get land ownership. So how did land ownership transfer title at that time back in the 1840s or 50s?
Well, prior to the Torrance system, there was a regular system, and basically they recorded those documents at the Bureau by tracts, and they would register it. And it was actually in these books, which actually, if you go to the Bureau, you can still find those books. And it's basically written in beautiful Hawaiian language and script. And so you can see the documents there, you can see it online. And the neat part about that is within those documents, they didn't have erasers or anything. So when they did any type of changes, they would write in red ink over the black ink. So it's pretty interesting just to do that type of historical research at the Bureau or within the archives.
Okay. Now, when we discussed your presence coming on the show, you said prior to COVID, 70% of the recordings were on paper, and now 30% are on paper and the rest on computers?
So a lot of the recording was on paper, and that, if in fact, presented challenges to our neighbor islanders, where if they wanted to record a document, they would either have to mail it in or work with a title company. And as the technology got better, in fact, the past couple of years, the Bureau enhanced their technology by deploying a new system. And concurrently at that same time, we ran into COVID. So within COVID, we had to restrict access to the Bureau. So fortunately, as we released that new system, more and more people or the industry types were able to actually record online, because as you recall, you would have thought it got slower, but it got much more busier because the interest rates are so low, and the volume of electronic recordings flipped from prior to COVID about 70% paper to currently maybe 70 or even more as technology improves and people get more acclimated and comfortable with electronic recordation.
So the question, Mike, is, I understand you still have to have a wet signature, original signatures on the deeds and documents that are to be recorded?
You're going to have certain documents, yes, you're going to have a wet signature. But more and more, as we do electronic recordation at some point in time, perhaps it could be all electronic. But yes, there are specific documents that require a wet signature or ink, if you will.
Okay. So let's say a document is recorded. Are there recording fees? And how much are they for regular system and land court?
Well, within the regular system documents it's going to be, I believe it's $35, or I'm sorry, $41. And within the land court system, it's $36.
Okay. So there's a slight difference. Okay.
That's like
All right. So now, how do you record a document?
Well, there's different ways or different types of documents you can record. And if you are in a real estate transaction, which many people are in a specific real estate transaction of buying or selling a home, and you're working with a realtor, chances are many of the realtors will be working with a title and escrow company. And within the title and escrow companies, they work with different vendors who are authorized to do electronic recordings with the Bureau. So essentially, as long as you're in a specific real estate transaction with licensed professionals, whether it's a title and escrow company, whether it's a realtor, whether it's a lender, attorney, chances are it'll be done electronic. Now, if you want to record something on your own, you can actually walk in there and present your document for recordation. The clerks are going to review it there on site. And if it's recordable, they will accept your fee and they will collect your document and give you back a copy.
Okay. So there's a specific format that you folks need, like the first page has to be a line down the middle to a certain third of the page, and you stamp it on the left or right. What's the significance of the stamping on the right or left?
So basically, again, if you go to the website, they have the specific requirements. So, part of like any other website, you want to make it as informative and as simple for the general public or even professionals. And within that website, you can actually see, not only the requirements, but the fees. And yes, within the documents, I think there's 3.5 inches from the top, and that's separated by a line. Because once a document is recorded, it's going to get a stamp. And if the stamp is on the left side, it's in land court. If the stamp is on the right side, it's in regular system. So basically, that's the easiest thing.
Yeah.
R for regular, right, and L for land court for torrents.
And if it's a dual, then you got stamp on both sides.
Stamp on both sides, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. So can the public, they can record the documents you said, because they can just go into the Bureau and stamp it as long as it's in a recordable format, right?
Yes.
But most transactions, I'm led to believe that they go through the escrow company and then the title department takes the documents to the Bureau.
Yeah.
So walk us through a situation where I'm the buyer and maybe me and my wife are at escrow. and then the sellers have to sign the documents. Then what happens to those documents? What's the process?
Well, basically, once the signing is completed or the signing is set up. So, if you open up an escrow, you're going to have two parties. You're going to have the monies coming into the escrow company. A title report's going to come out. And within the purchase contract, there's various contingencies that have to be fulfilled. At that point where all the contingencies are filled, the money is in, a couple of days prior to recordation, the documents are going to be collected by escrow. The escrow will set up a signing for the buyers and the sellers to sign a wet signature of the deed. And basically, once those signatures are collected and completed, the title companies prepare those documents electronically to be sent to the Bureau for review prior to the recordation date. Once the Bureau reviews it and it's acceptable, then it's set up for recordation of the next day.
So if I take the sequence right, Mike, I sign on Monday, both buyers and sellers, and then the title company or escrow, whoever, will then send the documents to the Bureau on, say, Tuesday.
Yep.
And then on Wednesday, it's going to get recorded then.
And then once it's recorded Wednesday, it'll get a 801 stamp, basically, as a start of this. Yeah.
When you say 801, you're talking about 801 a.m.
801 a.m. Yeah, and that's for as the homeowner or purchaser or as a realtor or lender, you get that great call from escrow saying that document has reported. Yes.
Right. So at that point, then the buyer is the legal owner of the property, and their loan is then paid to the seller side. So the seller, if he has a mortgage, will be his mortgage paid off, and then the rest of the money will be deposited into their account, or you're going to wire it or mail the check to the seller then.
Well, so during the signing, the buyers or sellers will fill out paperwork to say how they want to receive their funds.
Right.
And basically, the escrow, the neutral third party, is basically just going to follow those instructions.
Okay. Now, if you are on the neighbor island and you're signing the documents, then they have to punch it over to the home office here in Hawaii, on Oahu?
But, yeah, they would in the past, but I think I mentioned earlier is that now if they're working with a title or escrow company, they can do it electronically.
Terrific.
So basically, they would send it to the title company. The title company will prep it, and then send it in for recordation.
All right. And the reason for that 8:01 a.m. Timestamp is, I've been told, is that there's no other document that can go in front of that document to make sure that there's no other liens or attachments or superior title to that property. Is that correct?
You're correct. Absolutely. And that's why you are great Abe Lee, because of your knowledge of.
No, I learned that from escrow by the and title people. So thanks to you guys. Very good. Now, can the public do their own research at the Bureau of Conveyance? And what's the steps involved to go to the Bureau?
Absolutely. So the public can do it in two ways. I sound like a broken record, but I keep mentioning their website because there's a lot of great information there. You could start there. You can go to their website, go to their research area, and you're going to have to create an account. Once you create an account, then you could go into their external system and do a search on your name. Do a search and to see if what types of documents are recorded. It's a great system, and once you start using it, you'll find that there's tremendous value. However, if you don't have a computer, and we actually had situations where the public would come in within the public reference room at the Bureau in room 123, you can walk in and use their computers. And in addition to having the computers there's the books, there's microfiche, and there's very helpful staff there that can help answer your questions.
Great. Well, thank you. So what kind of stuff can be recorded at the Bureau, Mike? I mean, there's got to be more than just deeds.
There's actually a lot of documents. I wouldn't be able to tell you everything off the top of my head, but there's hundreds of different types of documents, but the majority, if anything, are the deeds, the mortgages, the releases.
Okay. Would things like divorce decrees be recorded also?
It could be recorded, yes, if it's required to be recorded.
Okay.
So basically, if there's a requirement for a document to be recorded at the Bureau, then
Yeah.
the public or the private sector will present it for review and recordation.
I've heard some people say, "What? You went into my private records? That's an invasion of privacy." But this is all
You know,
public records, right?
these are public records, and similar to what the city does is they offer the documents that are on public record, whether it's your taxes or information about the property. That's where the Bureau's requirement is that this system or the Bureau of Conveyances documents are, once they're recorded, are open to the public. They can research it. It's depending upon your skill set. You may be able to find what you're looking for, or you can get help. But yeah, I mean, as long as the government provides the rules and regulations for public access to information, each division within government has to comply.
Okay, great. Now, I've also heard that there's Hawaiians that are looking at the history of their title to make sure that their family is the rightful owners. And I understand there's been some cases where the Hawaiians are trying to say, this is our land that was taken away illegally or whatever. So do you see a lot of people doing that kind of research at the Bureau?
Yeah, you have people coming in. Yes, you have historical researches, you have personal resources, and that's a neat part about the Bureau is that it has all that information. In addition to that, you have the State Archives Office, you have the Real Property Tax offices. So, depending upon your skill sets, let's say if you do have a genealogy background, there's a lot of data that you could access and review it. The key is, well, or the government will, provide access to the information, but they won't interpret it. They just make it available to you.
Okay. Say if someone dies and the successor trustee is going to now sign the documents. If you're in a regular system, how do you prove that you're the rightful person to sign the documents on behalf of the decedent versus what do you have to do for land court?
Well, it really depends upon the individual. If there was a power of attorney or what the trust would say. Basically, and that's the reason why you have, the title and escrow people is to review those documents to ensure that the successors, are the correct people who can have the power and authority to sign those documents. And again, it's case by case, so we'd have to take a look at each one.
Okay. Are there costs to print the documents?
If you go to the Bureau, there are costs. Basically, it's $1 per page. And the same thing applies if you're doing the research online. It's basically $1 per page. The good and bad parts. So if you're online and you're at home, you'll be able to actually preview the documents, but it's going to be a little blurry on purpose. But if you go down to the Bureau, you can preview the documents, but it's not blurry. But at the same time, you have the ability to print it there, within the premises using their copy machine. However, there's also certified documents. If you want a document certified, it's $20 plus $1 per page.
Okay. So you can do it either going online. Now, what's the website for that site, Mike? Do you have that handy?
I guess the easiest way is just to Google or search www.boc or DLNR BOC, and then it'll take you to the website.
Okay. And if I was lazy, I just put Google Hawaii Bureau of Conveyance website.
Yeah, exactly. So
and it show up, right?
Yeah. So each government division has a certain acronym, and it's .gov. So you'll be able to find it pretty easy.
Okay, great. Mike, any tips on what someone should be looking for as far as dealing with the Bureau of Conveyance? We know that if we go through escrow and title, that's the easiest because they're so experienced in doing that. But if someone said, I'm going to do it myself, and maybe it's just a simple mortgage that they want to put in with a family, so they have an attorney draft up the documents, have it recorded at the bureau, so they go down to the bureau to record it themselves, right? So what advice would you give as a experienced escrow officer as well, and the escrow worker, as well as the Bureau of Conveyance headman for the land court system? What would you give as your
Well,
tidbit of
so
advice?
let's clarify. I wasn't the head man. I was
Yeah.
so,
Second.
second. If anything, what I'd say is, we all have a network in Hawaii. It's a small community. So definitely within your sphere of influence, you would know someone, whether they're a realtor, whether they're a lender, whether there's some affiliation in real estate. And once you find that person, you basically going to ask them, because chances are they would either know what to help you look for, or they would know somebody that you could put you in touch. And I've received a lot of calls that said, "Hey, someone mentioned your name and asked if you could help." And within our community of Hawaii, I think that's what makes us unique, is that whoever it is, as long as we know that individual, we're gonna try to help them as much as possible. So I would say rely on your network, family, and friends.
Thank you. Mike, we have just a minute and a half left. I'm so grateful to you for spending the time and getting me prepped to do these questions. It's been really great. So thank you for being here, folks. And thank you for the viewers for watching the show, and hope it was helpful to you. If you want to get email advisories to see a complete listing of our shows, you can sign up for them on thinktechhawaii.com. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another great guest. Please tell your friends about this show and share it with them. And it'll be on ThinkTech Hawaii YouTube. If you look up ThinkTech Hawaii, Abe Lee, or Mike Imanaka, you'll be able to see it sometime tomorrow. Okay? And for more information on real estate education, please visit our website, abeleeseminars.com. I'm Abe Lee, your host for Finding Your Piece of the Rock on ThinkTech Hawaii. Thank you for being here. Aloha.
Thank you so much for watching ThinkTech Hawaii. If you like what we do, please like us and click the subscribe button on YouTube and the follow button on Vimeo. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and donate to us at thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo.